The regret of Gift. A reckless past. Gift was the kind of woman who turned heads wherever she went. With her radiant beauty and infectious charm, men easily fell at her feet. In her youth, she lived recklessly, enjoying the attention of different men, never thinking about the consequences. She was the queen of every gathering, the heart of every conversation, and the desire of many. But beneath her glowing smile was a woman who lived for the moment, never considering what the future held. She had convinced herself that life was about pleasure, and she refused to settle down when suitors came knocking. Among the many men who admired her, one stood out: Ike. Ike was different. He wasn't the wealthiest, nor was he the most handsome, but he was kind, patient, and deeply in love with Gift. He saw beyond her beauty. He saw a future with her. When others saw her as a fleeting pleasure, Ike saw her as a lifetime commitment. Despite her past, he chose her. At first, Gift saw Ike as nothing more than an option. He was always there, always caring, always forgiving. And when the time came for her to settle down, she picked him, not because she loved him, but because he was safe. She believed she could control him, bend him to her will, and shape their marriage into whatever she desired. But marriage was not as easy as she thought. The silent struggles, the honeymoon phase did not last long. Soon, dissatisfaction crept in. Gift found herself comparing Ike to the men of her past, the ones who made her heart race and her body shiver. Ike was gentle, too gentle for her liking. She wanted passion, excitement, something different. The nights were the hardest. Gift would stare at the ceiling, frustrated, as Ike slept peacefully. Beside her, she began to resent him, not for what he had done, but for what he lacked. And so, the complaints began. Ike, you don't satisfy me. At first, Ike thought it was a joke. But as days turned into weeks, he realized Gift meant every word. She mocked him, compared him to other men, and even refused him at night. Ike, desperate to please his wife, began searching for solutions. He exercised, took natural herbs, and even consulted specialists. He believed the problem was him, never suspecting that Gift's past had left scars that made it impossible for her to conceive. But no matter what Ike did, it was never enough. The bad friend's influence. As Ike struggled to save his marriage, Gift's friends fed the fire. Leave that man, one of them sneered. He's not even a real man. He can't satisfy you, and he can't even get you pregnant, another added. What are you still doing with him? Gift began to listen. The more they spoke, the more she felt trapped in a marriage she had chosen out of convenience. Then, one day, her friends made an offer. There's someone who can give you everything I cannot. A younger, vibrant man, one full of energy, wealth, and passion. Gift hesitated at first, but curiosity won. And from that moment, Gift's marriage had gone from bad to worse. At first, her complaints were only whispers in her mind, but soon, they became shouts. She no longer hid her dissatisfaction. Every night, she turned her back on Ike, sighing loudly whenever he tried to touch her. Ike, I'm tired. Ike, just sleep, please. Ike, must you always disturb me? She no longer saw a loving husband. All she saw was a man who had failed her expectations. Ike, on the other hand, tried everything. He bought different herbal mixtures. He did intense exercises. He even visited a traditional healer, hoping for a solution. But nothing worked, not because he had a real problem, but because Gift had already made up her mind. Then came the final blow. One evening, after preparing a special dinner for her, Ike sat down with hope in his eyes. Gift, let's talk. She looked at him with irritation. Talk about what? About us. She sighed dramatically, but sat down. I know things haven't been perfect, but I love you, and I want to make this work. Gift scoffed. Love? Love is not enough, Ike. Do you even think about my needs? About what I truly want? Ike's shoulders dropped. Tell me, Gift, what do you truly want? For a moment, she hesitated. Then she said the words that sealed the fate of their marriage. I want more. More than what you can give me. Ike sat in silence. His worst fear had come true. He was not enough for her. Gift's words broke something inside him. After that night, Ike stopped trying. He went to work, came home, and avoided conversations. He barely ate, barely spoke. Gift, however, felt free. She no longer hid her phone when her friends sent her messages about better men. She no longer avoided Chuka, the young man who had been showing her attention. Gift, you deserve better, he would tell her. And she believed him. One night, After another argument with Ike, Gift finally made a decision. She left the house and didn't return until midnight. Ike was waiting in the living room. "Where have you been?" His voice was calm, but his eyes were filled with pain. Gift rolled her eyes. "Ike, I went out. Must I explain everything to you?" Ike clenched his fists. "At least respect our marriage, Gift." She laughed bitterly. "Respect? What about my happiness? What about what I want?" At that moment, Ike realized he had already lost her. The next morning, he packed a small bag and left the house without saying a word. But what happened next? Gift never expected it. The day Ike left, Gift felt nothing. She expected to feel guilt or sadness, but all she felt was relief. Finally, she could breathe. "Maybe now, I can find true happiness," she told herself. She continued seeing Chuka, enjoying the attention he gave her. He was nothing like Ike. He was bold, confident, and most of all, he knew how to make a woman feel special. But happiness can be deceiving. At first, things were perfect. Chuka showered her with gifts, took her to expensive places, and made her feel like the queen she believed she was. Then, reality hit. Chuka wasn't as patient as Ike. He had a temper. One evening, she made a joke about his work, expecting him to laugh. Instead, he slapped her. "Don't ever talk to me like that again," he warned. Gift was shocked. Ike had never raised a hand on her, no matter how much they argued. "It's just one mistake," she convinced herself. But it wasn't. Days turned into weeks, and Chuka started changing. He was no longer sweet. He no longer spoiled her. He started ignoring her calls and staying out late. One evening, Gift decided to surprise him by visiting his house unannounced. But when she arrived, she got the shock of her life. Chuka was inside, with another woman. Tears streamed down Gift's face as she stood outside Chuka's house, listening to the laughter coming from inside. "Maybe it's just a friend," she told herself, trying to deny what was happening. But then she heard something that shattered her completely. "Baby, let's go inside," the woman giggled. "I told you, my dear," Chuka's voice followed. "You're the only woman I love." Gift's heart stopped. Her hands trembled as she knocked on the door. Hard. Chuka opened it, shock flashing across his face when he saw her. "Gift, what are you doing here?" he asked, his voice cold. "Who is she?" Gift's voice cracked. The woman behind him laughed. "Oh, so this is the side chick you were talking about." Gift felt her world crumble. "Side chick," she whispered. Chuka shrugged. "Gift, let's not make this dramatic. You knew what this was. Did I ever promise you marriage?" Gift felt sick. She had thrown away a man who truly loved her for someone who never even took her seriously. Tears filled her eyes. "Chuka, after everything?" He sighed impatiently. "Gift, go home." And just like that, he shut the door in her face. That night, Gift walked back home broken. She sat in the dark, staring at the empty space where Ike used to sit. For the first time, she missed him. She picked up her phone and dialed his number. It rang and rang, but no answer. Days turned into weeks. She tried calling Ike again. No response. She sent messages. No reply. Then one evening, a terrifying thought hit her. What if he moved on? Desperate, she went to his workplace, only to find out that Ike had resigned and left the city. Her heart shattered. She had lost everything: her husband, her dignity, and worst of all, her peace. And then, the final blow came. She went to the hospital for a checkup, hoping to find out why she had never conceived. The doctor's words felt like a death sentence. "Madam, your womb is damaged. You will never be able to have children." Gift collapsed in tears. This was her punishment. She had destroyed a good man, and now she was left with nothing. Gift sat in her room, staring at the doctor's report, her hands trembling. "You will never be able to have children." The words kept echoing in her head like a haunting melody, refusing to fade away. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she remembered all the years she spent blaming Ike for their childlessness. She had mocked him, called him a failure, made him feel less of a man, when all along, she was the problem. She picked up her phone again, scrolling through old pictures of Ike. Photos of them smiling, laughing, happy. "Ike, please pick up," she whispered, dialing his number for the 100th time. But there was no answer. Desperation gripped her heart. She rushed out of the house, heading to his old workplace. Maybe someone there knew where he was. When she arrived, she was met with cold stares. People who once admired her as Ike's wife now looked at her with pity. "Madam Gift, Ike don go. He don resigned since," one of the workers told her. "Please, where did he go?" Gift begged. The man shook his head. Nobody know. But him talk say he no go ever come back to this city. Gift's knees buckled. She felt the world closing in on her. Ike was gone. And this time, forever. Days turned into weeks. Gift couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. Everywhere she turned, memories of Ike haunted her. She tried to live normally, but guilt was eating her alive. One evening, she made a decision. I need to find him. She sold most of her belongings and traveled to Ike's hometown, hoping someone there knew where he had gone. When she arrived, she saw his mother sitting outside their old house. The old woman looked up, her face turning cold when she saw Gift. "Mama." Gift started, kneeling in front of her. "Don't call me that," the woman said, her voice sharp. Tears filled Gift's eyes. "Please, I just want to see him." The old woman sighed. "Ike is no longer here. He has moved on." Gift's heart skipped. "Moved on?" The woman nodded. "He is married now." It felt like a dagger to the chest. Ike was married. He had finally found peace with someone else. Gift broke down in tears, wailing like a child. "Mama, please, just tell me where he is." The old woman shook her head. "You had your chance, Gift. You threw him away like trash. Now let him be happy." Gift cried, begging, pleading, but the woman refused to say more. As Gift walked away, she knew she had lost Ike forever. Gift returned to the city, but nothing felt the same anymore. She had money, but no one to share it with. She had beauty, but no man who truly loved her. She had everything she once thought mattered, but in the end, she had nothing. Years passed, and one day, while scrolling through Facebook, she saw a picture. It was Ike. He was standing beside a woman, his wife. She was pregnant, glowing with happiness. In the comments, people congratulated him. "God has finally blessed you, Ike. You will be a great father." Gift stared at the screen, her heart breaking all over again. Ike was about to have the one thing she could never give him, a child. She closed her eyes and whispered, "I did this to myself." And for the first time in her life, she accepted her fate. She had lost everything. And this time, there was no second chance. Days turned into months, and months into years. Gift tried to move on, but her heart was forever chained to the past. Everywhere she went, she saw reminders of Ike. She avoided Facebook, but whenever she overheard people talking about marriage, love, or children, her heart twisted in pain. One day, while walking through a shopping mall, she saw a man pushing a baby stroller. She didn't pay much attention at first, until she saw the man's face. It was Ike. Her heart stopped. He looked so different now, more mature, happier. Beside him was a woman, his wife. She was gently holding his arm, smiling as she looked at their baby. Gift's hands trembled. This was supposed to be me. She quickly turned away, but just as she did, Ike saw her. For a moment, their eyes met. But there was no anger in his gaze. No hatred. No emotion at all. Just indifference. To him, she was just another person in the crowd. A stranger. That realization hit her harder than a slap. She lowered her head and walked away, her vision blurred with tears. She had lost him forever. Gift tried to distract herself by throwing herself into work. She focused on building her career, investing in businesses, and making money. But no matter how successful she became, her nights were filled with loneliness. One evening, she sat in her lavish apartment, sipping wine, staring at the walls. She had no family, no children, no husband, just money. And money couldn't fill the emptiness inside her. One by one, her bad friends moved on with their lives. Some married, some had kids, and some even apologized for misleading her in the past. But what was the use of an apology when the damage had already been done? As the years passed, she became known as the wealthy but lonely woman. Men still approached her, but none stayed. Some only wanted her money. Others saw through her, sensing the deep sadness hidden behind her smile. Eventually, she stopped trying. She accepted that this was her fate. One cold evening, Gift received a wedding invitation. It was from one of her old friends, the same ones who used to encourage her to leave Ike. They were all married now, settled, happy. Gift looked at the invitation for a long time before placing it aside. She wouldn't go. She had no place among them anymore. That night, as she lay in bed, she whispered to herself, "I had everything, and I lost it." A single tear rolled down her cheek. For the first time in her life, she truly understood what regret meant. And she knew that no matter how many years passed, she would never escape it. As the years passed, Gift could no longer ignore the weight of her regrets. Every day, she lived with the painful realization that she had destroyed her own happiness. But she was tired of drowning in sorrow. One morning, as she sat in her large but empty house, she looked at her reflection in the mirror. Her once youthful face now carried lines of sadness. Her heart whispered, "You can't change the past, but maybe. You can't change the past, but maybe. You can change the future." For the first time in years, Gift decided to do something meaningful. She started visiting orphanages, spending time with children who had no one. She saw little boys and girls, abandoned and unloved, just as she had abandoned Ike when he needed her most. At first, it was just an escape, but soon, it became her purpose. She donated money to help build better shelters. She paid for children's school fees. And for the first time in decades, she felt truly happy. One day, while at an orphanage, she met a young boy named Chabik. He had the same eyes as Ike. Something about him reminded her of the man she had betrayed. She asked the caretakers about him and was shocked to learn that he was Ike's adopted son. Her heart ached. Ike had moved on, built a family, even if not by blood. And here she was, still searching for meaning. That night, she sat alone in her room, staring at the ceiling. Maybe this was God's way of punishing her. Maybe she was never meant to have children. But then, a thought entered her heart. Maybe she couldn't undo the past, but she could still do something good with the time she had left. Act of redemption. Over the next few years, Gift devoted herself to raising and helping abandoned children. She never told Ike about her involvement, and she never expected forgiveness. But deep inside, she felt a sense of peace. And one day, as she watched the children playing, she smiled, truly smiled, for the first time in years. She had lost everything, but in giving love to those who had no one, she had finally found herself again. The end. Moral and lessons of the story. 1. True love is about loyalty, not temporary pleasure. Gift chased temporary satisfaction, but lost a man who genuinely loved her. In the end, she realized that true love is built on commitment, not just physical attraction. 2. Regret is a heavy burden. The choices we make today shape our future. Gift thought she was making the right decision by leaving Ike. But years later, she lived in deep regret, wishing she had valued what she had. 3. Material wealth cannot replace inner peace. Even though Gift lived in luxury, she was never truly happy. Real happiness comes from love, contentment, and meaningful relationships, not just money. 4. Bad company can destroy a person's life. Gift allowed her bad friends to influence her decisions, leading to her downfall. The people we surround ourselves with can either build or destroy us. 5. Redemption is always possible. No matter how much we've lost, we can always make amends by doing good. Gift couldn't change the past, but she found peace by helping orphans and giving love to those who needed it. 6. Never take a good partner for granted. Ike was a good man who tried everything to make Gift happy. Instead of appreciating him, she complained and left. In the end, she realized too late that she had let go of a rare and valuable person. 7. Patience and communication in marriage are important. Instead of working through their problems, Gift ran away. Marriage requires patience, understanding, and open communication to thrive. 8. Selfishness leads to loneliness. Gift thought only about herself, neglecting Ike's love and efforts. In the end, she found herself alone while Ike built a happy life with someone else. Final message. This story teaches us that the grass is not always greener on the other side. We should appreciate and nurture the relationships we have because, once lost, some things can never be regained. However, even after mistakes, redemption is always possible if we choose to do good.